Okay, Mike, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Shift Happens, episode 21. As you guys are hopping on, say hello. Let me know where you're tuning in from. And welcome, Mike, to the stage. I am so excited. This man is so busy. And he made some extra time for us because here's the deal. How many times have you guys said, well, that wasn't part of the plan? So many times in your life, you're going to have a plan and then it's going to change. So again, Holly O'Brien, Shift Happens. As you're tuning in, say hello. I know some people are tuning in on my public page and some people are tuning in on our private group. So we want you to say hi and welcome, Mike. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Holly O'Brien. For people that don't know who I am, we do a weekly show. We, as in I'm multiple personalities. I am a female, we do have multiple personalities. We, as in Holly and all her personalities, go live weekly with a guest, and we talk about shift happening. Guys, here's the deal. In your life, shift will happen. We want to help you shift in the right direction. So I bring on guests each week to talk about their shifting, where they were able to shift in the right direction. So today, you may be about to go into a shift, or you're right in the middle of a shift, or you've come out of a shift. And we want to show you how you can shift in the right direction and not the wrong direction. We got a few people hopping in. Mike, can you see the comments? I know some people can and some people can't. Haven't figured out
I
yet.
don't I don't see anything. Oh, I have it clicked as private chat. I see the comments. Yeah, I see Facebook
Yay!
user, a couple hearts, and hi Holly Lynch O'Brien. So
Oh, yay. Awesome. Okay. If you don't have StreamYard, go ahead and say your name so we know who's talking. And let us know if you have any questions. Mike is a powerful entrepreneur. And I was able to meet him. Mike, I was trying to figure out when I met you. Was it a year ago? Was it a year? Time warp.
it was definitely 2021, I believe, because I had still at my office. So you were at a PB&J feeding frenzy in my Tampa office. So I got rid of that office in May of 2021. So it had to be sometime before that.
Wow. So it's been longer than I thought. Okay.
May
So
no,
I,
May of 2022. I got rid of it May
oh,
2022. I'm sorry. So yeah,
okay.
May 2022, I got rid of it. So it had to be before that.
Okay, so about a year ago, I met Mike. I was invited to do making some peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for the local homeless shelters. And immediately, who knows me, I'm like, yes, I'm in. I don't care how far I have to drive. I want to go. So I brought my kids and I was introduced to this fascinating individual. And when I met him, I was like, good gosh, you fascinate me. And the thing was, he's so driven, but very kind. You speak from the heart, and your energy and your demeanor is very welcoming. So any of those personalities, I'm like, oh, you fascinate me. Tell me more about you. And then I come to find out he's a total freaking badass. I was like, holy, can I cuss on here? Shit. Last week I didn't cuss. So I'll cuss this week. Dude, you're a badass and you're so humble. And I ended up, I think you bugged me for like a year or maybe 6 months. Holly, I have programs who can help you with your squirrel brain, and you and your husband as entrepreneurs. So I ended up said, you know what? I trust you. So I jumped into working with Mike professionally on business and his business partner, Andrew. And that's the reason this show even exists. So you guys can thank this person right here for me creating this because he was a part of that journey. So without further ado, Mike Abramowitz, what I love is he exemplifies what is possible when the odds are stacked against you. He's an accomplished author, speaker, coach, and philanthropist. I can never say that very well, that word. But there's so many things that this man has done. One of the things I didn't know, if you've written 9 books, which 2 are top bestsellers on Amazon.
They did reach #1. Yeah.
Yay, that's amazing. After we're done interviewing, I want you to kind of share that and what books you've written. And he has a Better Than Rich podcast show with a friend of mine who's the other coach. And also he discusses his journey on business insights and encourages others to leave today better than they found it. And anyone who knows me knows I love that. So Mike, really quick, before I get down into the questions that we're going to be asking today, we do an interview style. Mike doesn't know the questions. I end up just asking him different things. And we talk about some of the major life shifts that he's gone through. So really quick, Mike, thank you for being on the show. Can you just introduce yourself, anything that I may have missed that you think people should know about you or what you're excited about for today?
Sure. What you did miss is how infectious your personality was at that first PB&J for Tampa Bay feeding frenzy. And I was like, man, that woman is amazing. And I said to Scott Goss, I said, who is she? And he said, oh, we've met from like Tony Robbins. We did some stuff at her gym. It's like, cool. I went up to you. I said, "Hey, Scott said you might host a PB&J feeding frenzy."
Mm.
And you said, "Yes, of course I will." And I have had probably, I don't know, 50 to 60 people say that, but never follow through. And you were one of the individuals who did follow through and continue to follow through on keeping that purpose and that passion project alive. So I just want to say thank you. You did miss that part. So, but I'm glad to be here. And if I played a small part in your journey or a large part in your journey, either way, I'm just super grateful to see everything that you're doing and helping people reveal their potential. So thank you for having me here. And I'm an open book. You could ask me anything you need to ask, and I will share whatever could be of service.
Well, I love that about you, and you are an open book, and you and Andrew have made a significant impact on my journey. And all these women that are on right now have been able to watch it. So, guys, if you see the significant impact, just give this man some praise because they work really hard and it's tiring. I mean, I don't even know how hard your job is, but it seems like it'd be hard. For y'all to be able to rein in my squirrel brain and keep me on track, I have to say it's been pretty powerful. So, thank you for all that you're doing. I do want to share a little bit. So the name of the show is That Wasn't Part of the Plan. Guys, put a 1 in the chat if you have ever uttered the words, well, that wasn't part of the plan. I feel like all of us have at some point, and if you haven't, it's going to happen. And I feel like so many times in your entrepreneurship journey, that has happened to you, right? So you went from, I mean, when you started your businesses, I mean, one of the great things that you've done is you've been able to help over 5,000 young professionals generate over $18 million in Cutco's product sales. So you were in direct sales. That is impressive. That's a lot of kids. And what I like about you is you're very interested in helping the younger generation, but also people that want to make a difference. So share a little bit about your desire about helping people to make a difference so people can get to know you a little bit better.
Sure. I mean, for me, to my core, I watched my mom and my dad growing up be servant leaders. My mom always let the kids come over the house, all of our friends. And in fact, I'm the youngest of, my mom had 6 kids, so I'm the youngest. So I witnessed my older siblings each have a friend live with us. My mom actually invited them to live with us for an extended period of time because they had broken homes. So we also had, like, my mom always had pets, strays, always feeding them and welcoming them in. And then my dad, it was the first time I ever witnessed someone feeding someone that was less fortunate than us, and painting an old abandoned synagogue, and just doing these random acts of kindness. And growing up Jewish, we called them mitzvahs. So I had these mentors as my parents, of where I was able to witness what random act of kindness and loving individuals and openness looks like and feels like. So I was really blessed with that. You pair that with being extremely overweight, with pimples and freckles and
Oh,
glasses and braces, and you pair that insecure young Mike, where going into high school, I was about 70 pounds overweight.
mm,
So this chubby kid didn't have my first girlfriend till, like, sophomore junior year of high school. So you take the insecure, lacking confidence kid with this gentle softness, loving type of witnessing that I was able to see. And then you combine those two. I go to college to get away, be able to be independent, move from New Jersey down to Tampa. I only applied to schools in Florida because I was like, that was Michael, this, like, chubby fat kid that was, like, super soft, was Michael. And I came down to Florida. I said, I'm going to be Mike, and I'm going to be
oh,
Mike, and I'm going to be this independent human. And I went to college at USF my freshman year. I was broke. I had no money. I was, begging hey, could you send me some money, please? Like, but I wanted to be independent, but yet I was still reliant. But then I got into selling Cutco my summer after my freshman year, and that was a life changer for me, getting into sales, because I was studying engineering. I never, I understood sales. I understood, the idea of being in charge, because my dad owns a plumbing business, and I understood the concept of business, but I really didn't know much about sales or entrepreneurism. So that's really, then, I mean, obviously that led me to 18-year-old Mike, but that lens maybe gives a little bit of a foundation to get to 18-year-old Mike. And then I call it my 20s. I have a ton of shifts that happened during my 20s that we could go into, between, mom getting diagnosed with ovarian
Mhm.
cancer and unfortunately losing that battle to cancer, and,
Mhm.
breakups and market crashes and real estate crashes, and the whole valley of my 20s. And then we could even get into the shift that happened in my 30s, of recovering from those valleys, and then using all those gifts and lessons from my 20s to prepare for what was the biggest challenge of my 30s, was when our son was, when my wife and I were going through the IVF journey, and um, went through a fetal demise at 20 weeks, into James being born at 1 pound 4 ounces, being in the hospital with him for 8.5 months. And so just the whole journey behind that during our 30s to get to where I'm at now at 38 years old. So the lens of young Mike into the 18-year-old version of me, to the 20s, to the 30s. There's so much, Holly. That's why I had to start my own podcast, right? So I mean, I could just talk. I could talk forever about and wrote books. That's why I have a lot to say. So whatever
Right.
direction you want to go,
Oh,
we can go.
I love it. Guys, here's the deal. This is why I wanted to bring him on, because if you notice the shifts, you're like a cat, like you've lived 9 lives. You lived a lot of different lives. And do you notice how he said, he renamed himself. He started with from Michael to Mike. Don't be afraid to redefine yourself. Guys, if you are liking this so far, please hit the like button, hit the share button. This is going to change someone's life, and you get to be a part of that just by sharing this. So like button, hit the share button. And Mike, I love that you, in your 20s, you were in a valley. Are you in a valley right now, guys? Are you watching right now and you are in a valley? Put valley. We hear you. We've been there. We're probably going to go again at some point, right? Because things don't just keep going up, they go like this. Mike was in a valley. He was able to learn so many different things through that process. And without going through that valley, you would never be sitting in front of us right now, or standing, probably, because I think you like standing when you talk, right?
I do.
Yeah, standing in front of us. So because that valley that he went through in his 20s, he was able to recover in your 30s to prepare you for your son being born. That's actually one of the things that I wanted to focus on during our talk, is because people see you now. They could easily see you now. Say, yeah, well, he's successful because. Has anyone guilty of that? Saying, well, so-and-so, everyone needs to raise their hand. Everyone needs to raise their hand. I'm guilty of saying that as well. Well, it's easy for them because. Listen to this gentleman right here. It has not been easy for him. But when you fell, what did you do? You got back up again, right? So describe a little bit going into your 30s where you were recovering, and then what it was like, because you built this huge business, and then you were able to you were in the hospital for 254 days. Your son was born at 1 pound 4 ounces. So walk us through in your 30s, after you went through the shit in your 20s. Walk us through a little bit of your 30s, and what was helpful for the viewers, who's got some people that are in valleys right now. First, let me ask this. The people that are in the valley, what encouragement will you give them today, knowing that you are where you are today?
So it's a great question, because I just reread some of my journals from 2014, so 9 years ago, when I was on the climbing out of the valley. And one of the habits that I was doing a lot of during the valley was journaling and capturing some of those emotions, because I knew what was in my control. So I had to let go of what was not in my control and focus on what was in my control. Now that took about 2 years. Especially I went to the Tony Robbins event, UBW, and walked across the fire in 2012, 2013. And during that is where I had the revelation of my mess is my message. So before my mess is my message, during those valleys, I didn't really want to get off the couch. I had really bad eating habits. I just, it was tough. I isolated a little bit too much. I lashed out, projected my insecurities onto other people, which led to a breakup. You have to understand the context. I was negative $130,000. So I had the real estate I invested in my early 20s to get ahead in life. My credit score was 400, negative $130,000. I had judgments and deficiencies against me, where if I made too much money, the banks would just come in and take it from me. So living scared, living in fear. So there was a lot of that was just kind of like, stack that along with mom dying at 20, and then a college roommate best friend dying. So when I say the valley of my 20s, there was some serious shit. that I was recovering from emotionally, financially, relationally. So that 2012, when I walked across the fire and heard my mess is my message, was where PB&J for Tampa Bay was born, where we started feeding the homeless. Now over 100,000 meals later, that was the birthplace of Grab Tomorrow, which
Mhm.
was the book series that has 9 books in it. That was the birthplace of that. And that was also the birthplace of where I started redefining how I looked at my past, so I can move past my past and take my past, turn it into gifts, and turn that into a message and start speaking. So I spent 1 year, I did 300 hours of just speaking to the schools to craft what that message was. And I figured if I'm going to craft my message, I might as well serve too. So I've been revisiting some of these messages. In fact, I just shared in our Slack community one that I gave 7 years ago, just or 6 years ago, just to I'm revisiting that version of me in preparation for this conversation, because there was a lot of that preparation in those valleys that showed up. But journaling was one thing that was a constant, capturing my thoughts. I understood that we have 50 to 60,000 thoughts every single day. So what thoughts did I want to constantly run my operating system? Was it the painful past, or was it the possible future? So it was constantly reminding myself of what I'm wanting and where I'm going versus where I was. And being intentional with that was really helpful. And then breath work, getting in tune with my body a little bit more. Those are a couple of those practices, and those anchored in those the 2012 to 2017 was really anchored. And then I hired Andrew Biggs as my coach in 2016, and he pairing some of that anchor work that I did with Tony, pairing with Andrew's influence, was a lot more tying back into who Mike was. Michael was that feminine,
Mhm.
like little soft boy that was also projecting those insecurities. How can I find versions of that soft gentleness to work on me internally, finding what abundant life really means? What does fun really mean? What does it mean to be influential? So 2016 to like 2017, 18 was a lot of that self work. And then 2017, 18 was the business stuff. So it's like, now that I worked on me, how can I level up my business so I can get a financial return on this as well? Because it was great serving at the schools and speaking, and I would speak, I would hype up people. I was getting paid a couple $100 to speak. I
Woo!
was like, this is amazing, right? But then I'm like, there's no way I could have a family. There's no way I could like have kids and be in a relationship with all this work, work, work. So then we started learning how to systemize businesses, and we could get into that later. But that was like 2017, 2018. And then my wife and I, we got married 2017.
Mm.
So October 21st, 2017. And we started trying for kids in 2018. And she was going through the whole process. And of course, she thought it was her. And,
Mm.
and so she's going to all these doctors and whatnot. And then she's like, you need to go get a semen analysis done. I'm like, wow, come on. I know it works. I promise you, it works, but unfortunately, they diagnosed me with being infertile,
Mm.
and my count was in the double digits. So the average male has 20 million to 50 million, modal semen. I only had like 16 double digits. And then I
Wow.
was like, oh, it was a bad read. So I went in again, it was 32. And I went in again, it was in the 20s. So it was like 3 in a row. It's like, so we had to start that IVF due to male factor. And that was another one of those shifts that needed
Mhm.
to take place, because everything was out of my control again. So what did I do? I went back, I started journaling and reflecting after a lot of conversations. It's like, what is in my control? So I went to doctors and started figuring out, like, what can we do? And there's nothing. I got between a prostate exam, between little ultrasounds on my area and all of that, just figuring out like what's causing this,
Yeah.
what could we do to fix this? Nothing. There's no resolution. So I started looking at natural remedies and figuring out, what could we do? Is there anything that's in my control? So starting really 2019, anchoring this in of what's in my control. I was 7 years plant-based, vegan, strict, and started adding meat in, starting adding dairy, seafood. I started taking different types of vitamins and supplements that was in my control. I added cold therapy into my routines, changed my underwear, which was a new thing for me. So there was all these different changes
Wow.
from 2018 until February of this year, 2023. The count went up to now it's at just under 7 million. So it's still
What?
below,
That's
but
amazing
it's
though.
up to 7 million from these like tiny actions and these habits and this identity shift, which was really tough, but that shift needed to happen. And it's hard to be like this perfect human who does cold therapy and journaling and meditation to lower cortisol levels and take these vitamins every single day and go from a 7-year identity to shifting it to now I'm going to add meat and seafood and dairy into my diet and eggs. So it's like that was a big shift. But all of this of working on myself and focusing what's in my control, I find was really healthy because when James was born, so we had the fetal demise in fall. That was Hannah, fall of 2020, 2019, which was really tough. That was at 20 weeks.
Mm.
And that was really challenging for Lindsay and I. And then we mustered up enough courage to try again. And that was 2020. And that's when COVID, was obviously
Mhm.
really booming. And everyone was quarantined, and my business was doing really well because all the business systems that we put into place in 2017 allowed me to have complete freedom in 2020. So we took an 18-day road trip in the middle of our busy season, still putting up $100,000 sales weeks, still having 100 people set for training. We ended up doing like over $2 million in sales that year, over $1 million in sales that summer season. In perspective, the record for our category was like 2.5 million. We did like 2.3 million. So, and the record's been there for like,
Holy
20
cow.
years. So we were just a powerhouse while I had freedom. And then we went into, Lindsay got severe preeclampsia
Mm.
and she had to deliver James at 26 weeks because her body was, her liver started shutting down and blood pressure was too high. So she started being very much at risk. So we had to deliver, and he was only 1 pound, 4 ounces at delivery. And we didn't think he was going to make it, and a lot of people didn't know. We stayed as optimistic as possible. The catchphrase that I kept repeating to myself is being cautiously optimistic, cautiously
Mhm.
optimistic. So that balance between the two was really tough. So we just made it work. Lindsay was on bed rest, and I would go back and forth while she was on bed rest and go to the hospital, be with James until she was able to go. And then she lived at the hospital. And we both were there with James, and then he had to get his trach in April.
Mhm.
I believe it was April. He had his trach, and he was completely vent dependent. We got home after 8.5 months, and that 8.5 months was tough. What was it? What was it like? I put on a decent amount of weight after losing that weight. I had pretty rough habits. It was a winter season, but business was still good. I mean, that was the one thing that was continuing to rock because all those systems that put in place, the business still brought in over 250,000 in revenue. And so 6 figures net profit without me there. And when we got to the hospital September 10th, on 2021, I said, I got to help people figure this business thing out because this was a game changer for me. So that was another shift was like, okay, Lindsay's now a full-time medical mom. I'm a medical dad, and we got to replace her, high paying corporate recruiting income that we were used to having. So how am I going to do that? And that kind of leads into where you and I kind of met and started providing services and teaching things. But the ultimate path of that shift, and this is a very long rant, but I wanted to make sure that the story is captured. But it is there's lots of shifts that take place, and I call them seasons. There's a great book by Jim Rohn, The Seasons of Life. And the seasons, I was in a winter season, but I knew because of my past that spring always follows winter. So if that's the facts that spring always follows winter, all I need to do is make sure I'm approaching winter season with what is called a minimum viable product, an MVP. What is the minimum viable product that I can do to continue doing whatever I can do to sustain? So I don't like retract or retreat back, but I sustain as a minimum viable product. So when spring shows up, and I know it will, I can get ready to aggressively plant those seeds that I
Mhm.
know will lead to a future harvest. And for me, that minimum viable product was, can I do 60,000 steps a week? That's it. Like that was my minimum viable product, 60,000 steps, and journal. I would journal and walk. I would be in the hospital room just pacing back
Mm,
and forth, back and forth. I got a Fitbit and it just tracked 60,000 steps. So I gamified steps and I
mm,
would just write what was on my mind. And that was my MVP. That was it. I had my coaches, my mentors I would talk to each week just to support me. And it was very lonely, but I had a brotherhood with Front Row Dads. That
mm.
was a really great resource for me. And having community around me was really helpful and healthy. Um, and it was a lot of season of unpredictability because one day at a time it was, he's thriving, he's declining. I mean, there might be 5 or 6 of those in a lunchtime. So it was really emotionally draining, and it was tough. But he's a strongest kid, man. He's a fighter.
So cute.
He's awesome. And we got home, and Lindsay has cared for him. If she hasn't done what she's done, there's no way he'd be
Mm,
alive. And now he's going to be 3 this New Year's Eve, and he is off the ventilator completely. He got his trach out. He is scooting around. He's starting to climb on things. He'll be running around soon. He is super smart. I mean, he understands his letters and his colors and his shapes. Loves music. He dances. He hears music. He just dances to the rhythm. I mean, he is just such a fascinating little guy. And I'm just so proud of him and his fight and his courage and his strength that he's demonstrated during such a season of unpredictability. It's hard to not want to continue to show up the best way possible as a healthy CEO dad, which is my identity. So again, super long rant, Holly, but
no, this was so
yeah.
good. I can so pull so much from this because I know there's people watching going, whoa, okay, if he can do it, I can do it. I mean, you've had so many different shifts that have happened in your life that could have easily taken you out. But because you've prepared for this, such a time as this, you literally, guys, are you journaling? Mike actually, I was having like a panic attack about something, not really panic attack, but he was the first person that, if you guys don't work with coaches, get a coach. I mean, Mike, you have a coach. Have you always had coaches?
Andrew was my first like actual coach that I paid a lot of money to back in
Right.
2016. But I had mentors in the business because when you're in direct sales or network marketing, like they're directly compensated based on how well you perform.
Right.
So I had mentors that really were invested in my success. But he was the first person that I hired that had no vested interest in
Mhm.
how good I would be or do. He just, his job was to help me be great. And there was a little bit of a difference there when you have like a hired coach
Yeah.
versus like a mentor that was inherited or recruited me into the company, as an example.
It makes such a difference having someone you can turn to. There's several things that you said. You had a coach, you have community. Guys, if you don't have a community, please lean in and listen to this. You're not meant to do life alone. You've heard me say this over and over again. This is proof. Can you imagine if Michael and Mike never had that community, right? And if they didn't have the community support them where they would be, it'd be a lot harder. Doable, but why go through the misery when you have a fast pass through community and support through coaching? And I love that you journal. That's one thing I've been very bad at. I'm like, oh, I need to journal because it gets your thoughts out. And I did do that whenever I was having my meltdown. And you're like, Holly, these emotions are real and they're from your past, and it's keeping you from going into your future. I'm paraphrasing what you said. And these are real emotions you need to work through. So if you're dealing with things today and you haven't started journaling, I'm going to encourage you to get out a journal and start journaling what you're going through. And just remember this show because Mike's been through all of this before, and he's been able to move past the shifts and move into different shifts because of the other experiences. And I love that you said painful past or positive future. Can someone put that in the chat? Are you focusing on your painful past or are you focusing on your positive future? Right. And that's, I feel like, is most likely what got you through a lot of the things you've gone through, one of the many things. I've got so many notes here. The downside of me making notes, I can't read my handwriting. I don't have that handwriting. So redefine how you look at your past. Capture your thoughts, and you can do that through journaling, right? So many people, okay, so I have a coach. Okay, good. Mentors for business, invested in a coach. So people on here do have coaches. And if you don't have one, I would highly recommend getting one. because it makes a huge difference. So you've been through, so now you're in.
Can I hit on one thing
Yeah,
real quick on
sure.
the journaling? So the reason why just journaling made so much sense. In fact, I just started labeling these. So just this is one pile. I have two piles.
Oh,
So
wow.
this is I just posted this. So they're sorted by dates, so month and year of all the different journals, and the reason why journaling works so well. Here's the Cliff Notes version. The emotions sit in one part of the brain. The physical act of writing, like the message that's sent from the brain down to your hand, and the physical act of writing brings the emotional part of your brain into the logical part of brain. Not typing like this or anything, but the physical act of writing brings emotion to logic. So by writing down, it's almost like this filter, this process of filtering those emotions and bringing it into logic. So that was like the science for me, like the very, very elementary version of science that made sense and it clicked. So it's like, all right, I need to bring my emotional logic. How do I bring emotional logic in the most rapid way with the least amount of consequence? Writing it down.
Hmm.
It made sense for me, and that's why I became an avid journaler. So people might say, what is journaling? All journaling is to me is the answer of a question. That's it. So I
Hmm.
ask the emotion a question. Really, the question might be, what just happened? The question might be, how do I feel? The question might be, how do I want to feel? The question might be, why do I want to feel that way? The question might be, what are some possible actions I can take today? Question might be, what am I grateful for in this moment? Or what might I be able to be grateful for in this moment? So all it is just let me ask a question, write the question down, and answer it. That small, tiny little practice has been transformative for me. I filled up. It's my most prized possession. In fact, we just moved. And I'm missing one journal, and I feel like a kid is missing, and I feel like that kid got kidnapped or something. Like I'm so nervous of like where that journal is.
You're going to find it.
But
I know you're going
we're
to find
gonna find it. We're gonna find it. So
it.
keep a lookout for a black journal that has really inspiring thoughts in it, because inspiring meaning in spirit, because that's what I feel comes through during a lot of my journal entries. So sorry to interrupt there, but I want to make sure
No.
that was captured.
Well, one of my questions was, how do you start journaling? Because I feel, anyone else want to hold themselves accountable and say on here they're going to start journaling? Anybody want to put it down? Write it down, people. Write it down. So I need to put this is also part of my one thing. Can I have two things? Five things. When I work, I have a coaching program I do with Andrew and Mike, and we write down the things that we want to work on. So we are held accountable for it. So I'm going to put this down because Mr. O'Brien was on here earlier. I don't know if he's still here. He would tell me to start journaling because then I won't be such a crazy person at home. My wife's going crazy. She needs a journal. But I love that you just gave us the playbook for that, because I'm going to go back and listen and write those questions down. If you guys want to go back and watch the replay and write those questions down, and let's start journaling together. So did
So
that teach you how to journal?
this is a gift that I gave to you. This is my Grab Your Thoughts, a guided journal to capture moments. So Andy actually has this in a bag for you. So
Yay!
it's a guided journal that I created with. It's one of those 9 books, but it's
Oh my
helped
gosh,
me
I'm so
tremendously.
excited.
Believe it or
Hey,
not.
Josh. Thanks for
So
joining.
so believe it or not, I actually made it for myself. So I
Okay.
created this for me back in 2016, and then I was like, let me just put it on Amazon. And it's my top favorite 40 questions to ask myself. And I just have gone through and did it for me. And I was like, let me just put it out there. And then some schools bought it, and in Pinellas County school system. But you have one of these waiting for you somewhere. So get with Andy; she has it.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Guys, we're going to start journaling together. This is going to be powerful. I'm going to make my team do this because this is what's actually, Matt, we should have our clients at the gym do this as well. And it'll make a huge difference. Okay, so going back to all the things, we usually like to keep it about 30 minutes.
Oh,
So I'm going
sorry about that. I didn't know. It was an
to
hour in my schedule, so I didn't know. But by the
every,
way, if any of your listeners want a digital copy of the guided journal,
okay,
I'd be glad to send it over to them. So my email is mike@betterthanrich.com, so they could email me. And I'd be happy to gift anybody, the digital copy. I'll have my virtual assistant send it out to them. So no
you're
problem.
Amazing. Guys, did you
Sure.
hear that? Make sure that you take advantage of this and we'll all start journaling together, get through our thoughts and be able to actually put things down and move forward. This man has been through so much in his life, and you can trust that the things that he does actually works, because look at him standing here today. And I'm excited to start journaling. That's going to be amazing. The physical, I like that you made it very logical for me. The physical act of writing brings the emotion into logic, right? The physical act of writing things down. I knew there was something to it because my husband makes notes all the time. I can't ever read my handwriting though. So is that just something I just have to work on? It's my handwriting. So actually go back. Do you go back and read your journals a lot, or?
That's the fruits of it. I think there's the first benefit that I shared, which is the
Mhm.
actual bringing the emotion to the logic, but the secondary benefit is going back and looking at it. It's almost like
Mhm.
it's a snapshot of your emotions is the way I describe it and the way I've interpreted it. So it's looking at old photos. So when you look back at old photos, you're like, oh my God, look how I looked. Look at that. Oh my hair. Oh my God, you look so great there. Look at this photo. That's what the journal is. It's a snapshot of my
Mhm.
emotions. So I look back and it's like, oh my God, look at innocent Mike. Oh, I remember when you were going through this. I'm so proud of you when you navigated through that. So like it's a snapshot of my emotions as I go back and see those peaks and valleys and ebbs and flows of my life. It's really a beautiful experience. I do that, I would say, at least once a year. I go back and read a journal. I just did it this September and I read 2014 journal, 2016 journal, and 2018 journal, just random ones I picked up. And I got myself a hotel room and I had a ceremony I went through and it was a really beautiful experience. But I read 3 of my past journals and it was just powerful experience for me. But again, that email address I saw Aaron ask is
Mm.
Mike at betterthanrich.com. Mike at betterthanrich.com, and just email, say, hey, send me a journal, and that, whatever you want to say. Hey, I was on Shift Happens. I saw your episode, and I'll have my VA send it over to you.
So, really quick before we end things off, we shared, how people can find you. One of the most important gosh, you've got so many important things you said. One of the things that really stands out is you had a plan. Without systems, without a plan, you're going to be running around like a chicken with your head cut off saying, what the just happened, right? Not to say the plan is always going to go the way you plan it, guys, because we're always going to say that wasn't a part of plan. But without having an outline, one of the most valuable things I've learned with you guys is having a system and having a plan, because if you don't have a system, it's like a all the time, right? Does anybody feel like their life is like this? You need a system and a plan. So do you have any advice on someone who maybe Holly 6 months ago, you remember me 6 months ago, I was like, hey, I don't know how to use a spreadsheet. I know nothing. What's a flow chart? I don't understand. Do you have any advice for someone who's kind of like wanting to step into that better version of themselves, but they're still going like this?
Mm. The short of it is I always start with what is the what, like what are like the whole idea of results, purpose, and then massive action. So it's
Mhm.
like what is it that your outcome, what is the
Yeah.
outcome you're after? Let's start there. And if you notice, that's always the first question. It's like, oh, I'm running like a chicken with my head cut off, or I feel like a hamster in a wheel. It's like, cool, well, what do you want? Like, what does the
Mhm.
destination look like? Describe that. What is the outcome? It's like, okay, well, why is that important to you? So if that's the outcome and that's what's important to you, now we can talk about what are some potential actions to get there. But that system of thinking is always the most important, because we get stuck in the activity more so than the actual outcome. We need to know what the outcome is first, because the activities don't really matter in a lot of cases, because the activities, and oftentimes those tasks and activities could get delegated.
Mhm.
Sometimes we could have somebody else do those tasks and activities and take about 70% of our energy and focus, put it onto somebody else, and that way I could focus my 30% on other tasks and activities towards that goal. But I need to know what that goal is. I need to know what the outcome is. How do I know that box is checked? So number one, what is the outcome? Very clear, clearly defined outcome. How much, how many, how often? How do you know the box has been checked? Now, once I know that box, I know what that box is. Make sure it has some sort of emotion behind it. Why is that box important to me? Why is it important that I have 100 people, or why is it important that I reach that milestone? Get the emotional juice, and then what are the all the possible actions, all the possible tasks that are aligned with that goal? Make the list. Then once I look at that list, I could look at the list and say, how can I buy back my time? I have
Mm,
a list of all these things that could get done. Who else is qualified? So a who, not how. Who else can help me with this list of tasks? Who else can help me with this list of tasks? Oh, I need a video editor. Cool. Let me find a video editor. I need someone to help me with social media. Let me find someone to help me with social media. I need someone to help me with my inbox management. My goodness, my inbox constantly is someone asking me for stuff. Cool. Let me find someone to help me with my inbox management. What are all the other distractions that might be there? Graphic design. Oh, I spend 5 hours a week on creating images. Can I find someone else, a who, to create images for me? Right. So just going through who can help me with this, who, not how. I just moved into my new home. It's like, who can help me hang up TVs so I don't have to spend my time doing it? Who can help take care of the lawn so I could spend my time a little bit more with unpacking and things that somebody else can't do? Who can help my wife organize her master bathroom so that way she could spend a little bit more time on other parts of the house because that part somebody else can do? Who, not how. Then with that mentality of who, offload what could be offloaded through delegation, and then I focus my energy with the more revenue generating activities or things that are my genius, things that bring me more that are a little bit more aligned with my gifts. But that is my system, if you will, like my roadmap of how I go through winning back some of my time, and also like a system of just decluttering the mind as best as possible.
I'm curious, what would you say to the control freaks that are freaking out right now going, there is no way I'm going to give control over XYZ? What would be your advice?
Well, my counsel is going back through the same exercise. It's like, well, what is more important to you, having control or getting that outcome?
Mm,
That's what's more, that's why we have to have that emotional juice to the outcome, because control is in the activity that produces the outcome. But letting go of control, we need to make sure that's part of what do I want more? Do I want more the emotion of control, or do I want more that outcome? And let's
mm,
say if the outcome is I want to have blank number of followers or blank number of money in my bank account. Let's go money in the bank account. I want to have $100,000 in my bank account. Okay, what do you want more? I want
mm,
$100,000 in my bank account, or I want to be in control of everything all the time. Which one of those wants is more significant to you? And if it's I want to be in control all the time, well, that person probably should get a coach so they could unpack why they have such a strong relationship to control. Maybe something happened early in life where they have this letting go, or they feel abandoned, or maybe there's something deeper rooted there. But that person probably needs to rework and rewire that system, because most people would say, I'd rather have that outcome, let go of the control. Cool. Why do I want that outcome? I want the 100 grand in the bank account so I could experience time freedom, money freedom, location freedom, whatever it might be. Those are my whys. Cool. What are all the actions that could get me there? Which are the actions that I want to be in control of? And which are the actions that somebody else can be in control of? I could still monitor it.
yeah.
I could still be a part of it, but like I don't have to be the doer. And there's a great concept by Dan Martell, buy back your time. 10% started by me, 80% done by somebody else, and then 10% finished by me. So I
Mm,
could still be in control of the starting it and finishing it, but that middle 80% is getting done over here while I'm over here doing something else. And then I could feel almost like an octopus. Right now, at this second in time, it's 11 a.m. On a Wednesday morning. There's right now probably 15 or 16 Mike Abramowitzes doing things while I'm here talking to you, managing the inbox, managing Instagram, managing LinkedIn, managing Facebook. There's someone doing video editing for me right now. Like there's probably 16. There's someone tracking my calories that I'm burning while I'm wearing my Whoop right now.
wow.
Updating a spreadsheet for me because I have a conversation with my health coach today, so I want to make sure that spreadsheet's updated for him. Like that's the way I would invite somebody to think that says control. We got to let go of that if you want to have fulfillment, if you want to have freedom. That's really important.
We have to let go of that if we want freedom. Guys, you're going to take so much of your past into your future. And if you do not deal with that past, your future is just sitting there and you're going to be running the rat race over and over again. So I want to encourage you to get a journal, follow his steps, email Mike so you can get the steps for journaling. Seriously look at why you are where you are today and own your shit. Like, sorry, guys, you've got to take ownership of some of the stuff that's holding you back because you're not going to move forward. It's not saying I'm a failure, I'm never going to do this again, and I'm worthless. I'm this. It's no saying, oh, I can. I have a piece of that. I have ownership over that. You even spoke about it a couple pages ago about you can either be a part of the problem or a part of the solution. I'm saying it in my own words, but you can be a part of that. So I would encourage you to start those steps today so your tomorrow can be different. And if you're dealing with that control, like Mike just said before, are you happy? Are you happy with where your life is today? If you're not, take the steps and take the shift to move in the right direction. There was someone that was asking about journaling. I'd love to hear what your advice is really quick on this. My
Sure.
fear in journaling is putting down my private thoughts and someone finding them. Do you have any suggestions? There's locked journals. I mean, I don't
Well,
know.
here's what I would my immediate thought is if somebody is feels so this person, so I'll speak to you. If you feel that your deepest, darkest, most vulnerable shifting that's kind of buried somewhere in the unconscious, and there's not a safe outlet, and if you feel like there's so much the shift that what we're just going to call it the shit that's in there that is so heavy that
Mm,
if we're nervous to let it go and somebody
mm,
else knows about that shit that's buried deep inside of us, what is the potential consequence of not letting that go and continuing to hold on to that shit and not processing it and
mm,
not releasing it and not having a safe outlet? What are the potential consequences? Who else is affected by holding on to that shit? By who else is affected by you being, I'm going to use harsh language here, but by being selfish to say, my shit that I don't want anybody else to know about is unique to me.
mm,
Because that, in my opinion, is bullshit.
mm.
Your shit is not unique to you. You're not special. We're all having a human experience. And in my opinion, it would be a blessing if someone read through my deepest, darkest shit because they're going to read that and say, wow, me too.
Oh,
Wow, I didn't know that you had that too. Me too. Because you know what? Frankly, we're all having a human experience. We're all on this journey. We all have shit that we're going through. So my invitation would be have a safe outlet. And if that safe outlet isn't a journal with you and your private thoughts and the nerve-wracking possibility that someone might read it, go get a counselor, find a community that you could share your shit with, but get that stuff out because there's more consequences of holding it in. That would be my response to that person.
I'm so happy I asked that because that's exactly what we need to hear. And that's one of the reasons I even started this show is I want you guys to know that you can relate and you're not alone. Me too. Next week we're talking about life after divorce. I did a survey, Mike, to ask what people wanted to hear about. And one of them was life after divorce, life after COVID, the death of a loved one. We've got some serious things that we're going to be talking about. So if you're not following me yet, click the follow button and make sure you stay tuned. And Mike and Andrew are going to help me get these out on email, build my list, send these out. So they're also helping me out, all that kind of stuff, because I know there's some powerful messages that you can get help from, but you also know people that need help with this. So Aaron, I
Can
would
I give one
definitely,
gift?
oh, sure, absolutely.
If there's anyone that I saw one person in the chat said, "I wish I could get a VA."
Yeah.
If I could just give an invitation, it's just a gift. It's a non-sales call, non-sales call. Just we would hop on 15 minutes and just poke around your business or your life with you and see what your goals are and what your needs are. And it would be 15 minutes with myself or someone from our team. And we would just ask you a couple of series of questions. The worst thing that's going to happen is you'll figure out what your dollar per hour wage is. What are the tasks that you'd like to get offloaded that drain your energy? And then if at the end of the call, you're like, man, I'd really like to see if I could afford a VA or if your team can help, then we would set you up for more of like a sales type of call. But you can go and book that call at va.betterthanrich.com. And va.betterthanrich.com, there's a link there that says book a free consultation. And you could just use that link. It'll go to myself or someone else on our team. You'll just hop on our calendar. And we would love to just poke around your business with you again. It's a non sales call. It would be just to poke around your business with you. And then if there's a way for us to help, we will.
Thank you for saying that because that was the next thing I was like, please, please, please share with us what you can do to help us. Because again, guys, they have significantly helped my husband and I, mostly me, because this is my first time. Like, I was a makeup artist by trade. I've always done makeup. This is my first time really stepping into the business side of things. And I freaking love it, but I know I can't do it alone. And what they've been able to do to help me is I just want to share it with the world. I know I've shared it with a lot of you guys. And what they do, they're not salesy. It is what it is, right? I feel like you guys are really good at saying, this is what it is. This is how we can help. Are you open to learning? So definitely do that. Also, podcast wise, can you share what your podcast is? Because you interview incredible entrepreneurs, all walks of life, and other things that people can say, me too, and have some help there.
So we have our podcast is called the Better Than Rich Show, and it's mainly what happens. What we really talk about is you've made it, you've conquered the hill, but it's like, what's the so what of that? So there's
Mm,
episodes on masculine and feminine energy. There's episodes on what it means to buy back your time and how to systemize your business so you can have that freedom. We talk a little bit about um, just outlooks on parenting,
mm,
homeschooling. We've had conversations around that. We've had conversations of what does it mean to be vulnerable and exemplify moral courage. And we've had conversations on I mean, a whole bunch of different topics, all under the umbrella of what is the fulfillment side of life and how do you get there. So, systemizing your business, systemizing your life, finding your purpose, developing that purpose and turning it into a passion project, creating profitable
mm.
business models to support those passion projects. So, we're really we've been blessed with how many followers and viewers and guests have appeared on that show. So it's on all the platforms. Better Than Rich Show. It's been a fun passion project for us.
Well, you're making a big difference. And I just thank you guys for doing what you do because you're helping a lot of people, whether you realize it or not. You're seriously impacting a lot of people. So I'd love to get Andrew on next and talking
Hmm.
about some shifting in his life. And I know you guys are just shifting together in a really cool direction. So I am honored and proud to be a part of this journey with both of you. So I appreciate you and all that you've done. And I just please guys reach out to Mike, reach out to Andrew, just start following them. You're going to learn so much. And remember, as I always leave the show, here's the deal, guys. Shift can happen in your life. And today can be the day that you make shift happen. You can shift in the right direction. Please follow us and you will start journaling, doing the things that Mike, the tangible things he said today. But you can also shift in the wrong direction. If you find yourself shifting back in the wrong direction, just go ahead and start following Shift Happens and shift yourself right back in the right direction. So thank you, Mike, for tuning in. Is there anything that I missed, anything that you want to talk about before we go and sign off with this beautiful Wednesday?
Hmm. My closing thought would be you're right where you're supposed to be. Honor the season that you're in, whether you're recovering from when you're in it, whether you're in a winter, which is really tough, whether you're planting seeds in the spring, whether you're grinding in the summer, or you're reaping the rewards in the fall. Honor the season that you're in, be present with that season, and understand that the next season is always going to follow. So be present with where you are while you're paving the way for where you're going.
Hmm, that was beautiful. You hear that, Mr. O'Brien? Matt's on right now listening. Be present where you are. I love that. That's beautiful. Well, thank you. Guys, say
Thank you.
goodbye. Say thank you for joining. Say thank you, Mike. Thank you for spending an hour with us, and I appreciate the time. So
My pleasure. Thank
I
you for
will
having
see
me.
you soon. Okay. Bye guys. Say goodbye. Thank you.